Heads or tails? If they win correctly, the visiting team can go for or against. If they lose, it comes over to yourselves, Agora, as the home team should make the choice. So, over to you.
So what do you choose? Heads or tails? And I actually have a coin with the head of the tail.
Heads.
Heads, okay. It's heads.
It's tails.
No, it's heads.
Heads. Would you vote for or against?
Against.
Against. So BIC will be debating against the motion. Agora will be debating for the motion. Okay? You have half an hour. We start at 10 o'clock.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Well, good morning everybody, and first of all I would like to thank Eva and Agora for the very warm welcome this morning. We won't talk of the excellence of the buffet, wonderful, but may I ask the Principal of Agora to say a few words, Mr. Rafael Barea.
Thank you. Good morning, honorable judges, opposing team, teammates, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome at Agora Portals. I'm glad to see all of you here with this new edition of the Rotary debate. Thank you so much, Kate, and thanks to her team for organizing again this debate. Unfortunately, this season a presentially debate. I think we are coming back to the normal situation, and it's glad for me and for all of us to stay here. And I think the skills we are giving to our students with this debate are nowadays the most important we can give them. Thank you so much and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Senor Barea. Well, of course, we're here in Agora, and the debate today will be between Agora and BIC. This is the second of the preliminary debates. The other schools taking part, as you probably all know, the Academy, the French Lycée, Queen's and Mallorca International School, who are here as observers today. Welcome. It is their first year they're taking part in these debates. I would also like to welcome as an observer Mr. Tim Robinson, who will be acting as a judge in the debates in November. Timekeeper, as I'm glad to say every debate this year, is Julie Brogan. Thank you very much, Julie. Your judges for today are Mr. Paul Aubrey, a spokesperson, Hannah Christensen and Graham Whitmore. Graham, one or two of you may have remembered from before. The motion today, and I'll say it correctly this time, the motion today is the colonization of Mars is essential for the future of mankind. Agora will be debating for the motion, BIC will be debating against the motion. Julie, over to you. Sorry, may I ask you just before, would you each of you introduce yourself by name to the judges before you start?
Of course. My name is Victoria Denat. I will introduce myself and the team during the speech.
Okay.
Ready? Humanity has just 100 years left on Earth. If we are to survive, we must become an interplanetary species. Those were the words of legendary astrophysicist and Professor Stephen Hawking in 2017. Good morning, honorable judges. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear opposing team. My name is Victoria Denat, and I'm here together with my team from Agora, Marina Guseva and Ines de Nicolas, to defend the motion that colonization of Mars is essential for the humankind. Before we start, I would love to thank Rotary for giving us the opportunity to participate in this debate, and also wish the best of luck to the opposing team. As you already know, today's point of the debate is whether the colonization of Mars is essential for the future of humankind. And we strongly believe that it is. Now let's look at the key terms of this debate, which are firstly colonization. Colonization does not mean moving the entire population to the red planet. It means having a plan B to move if we need to, furthering research, or just having a stepping stone into further space exploration. Also, you may ask yourself, is it really essential? Well, essential, according to the dictionary, means extremely important and necessary. It may be debatable whether it's essential now in 2021, but what we are talking today is the future of humanity. This is our third key term, and by future we mean our biological survival and our development and well-being. And I have to say, the sad fact, that both of these things, our biological survival and our well-being, are at threat. I apologize if I repeat well-known facts, but as you know, planet Earth faces various hazards, some of which are also self-inflicted, such as nuclear proliferation, bioengineered germ warfare, and global warming. As you may see in this graph, designed by United Nations Environmental Programme, there are 4 scenarios of how the temperatures would rise by the year 2100. As you can see, this would be the worst one, and even if you can see here, in the best scenario, you can see it's very terrifying. This change in temperature may lead to rising of ocean levels, which in the future, New York may look like that. Half flooded. There are already islands now that face this threat. Another thing we are facing are threats from the space, such as collision with an asteroid. Exactly as said in the quote by Carl Sagan. We live in the middle of a shooting gallery with thousands of asteroids in our path that we haven't discovered yet. So let's be at least a 2-planet species as a backup plan.
Some information.
Yes, please.
How would colonizing Mars end or stop any of these problems from affecting the human race?
For affecting human race, because we could move there, maybe decrease the population here, even focus on saving the planet, but still have a backup plan. It will be further developed by my teammates, of course. Thank you for your question. As we know from the history of Earth, the species, it's not hard for them to get extinct. For example, the dinosaurs. They didn't have a backup plan, they didn't have a space program. That's why they're not here with us today. So, the question is humanity doomed then? Keep calm. It's absolutely not. Thanks to our abilities to change, to adapt, and to develop, we have so many options to save it. And therefore, it's more than evident that colonization of Mars is extremely essential for the future of mankind. So what I want you to do tonight is to look up to the sky and remember this distance. 6 months. 6 months is nothing in terms of the solar system, because 6 months away, there is Mars. And 6 months away, there is our second chance. And Mars could be our next home. Thank you.
James Middleton. Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, esteemed judges, and members of the opposing team. Today, me and my colleagues will leave you in no doubt that it is not at all essential that mankind colonizes Mars. I, James Middleton, will discuss how the colonization of Mars is in no way essential when compared to the problems that mankind faces here on Earth. Palak, the second speaker, will address the social and economic issues related to colonizing Mars, and Ava, the third speaker, will address how we need to focus on climate change. First, allow me to deconstruct the notion. Colonization is the act or process of establishing a colony. Mankind is defined as the human race, and essential means something is indispensable or necessary. The word essential is a strong word to use in almost any context, but is especially strong in relation to a plan to spend what Elon Musk, one of its biggest advocates, estimates as $10 billion per person on sending a group of people to another planet whose colonization brings with it no immediate benefit, especially no benefit that would be considered essential to mankind's survival.
But here we are talking about the future of humankind as a whole. Wouldn't you agree that it is important to focus on our future as a species rather than just the short-term effects?
Well, I can't see any reason why needing to move to other planets is essential to our survival. We've survived for so long already on Earth. If we address the problems that are threatening Earth, there's no reason that we would ever have to leave. We currently have a lot of problems facing our species, from war to famine to climate change. And while some of these problems may not be new, they do pose a severe threat to us and our planet. We should be focusing the resources we have on addressing these problems, instead of starting these new problems somewhere else. Look at the state of the world right now. Everywhere you look, we're recovering from a pandemic, and in fact, we're still already in one pretty much. Countries all over the world have massive spending problems, with the United States alone in $1 trillion deficit. We suffer through a major climate crisis, and corruption seems to be rampant among many of the people we've elected to fix these problems. With all this in mind, how can any sane person claim that the colonization of Mars should be our top priority? How can they claim that that is what's essential to mankind's survival? Even by looking at just the logic of the idea, we can reveal how ridiculous it is. Hypothetically, if I were to let my room become a complete mess, so much of a mess that it became difficult for me to perform my daily tasks, the solution isn't for me to go, well, this room's ruined, I better move to another one. Yet that's exactly what the motion is suggesting. Not only would taking this plan be a waste of a perfectly good, functional room, just because I can't be bothered to clean it up, it also wouldn't guarantee that the same problem wouldn't happen in this new room. This is the exact same problem with the idea of colonizing Mars. Our life here on Earth is far from doomed, but our existence may be under threat if all our solutions to our problems are, oh, well, cleaning up this mess is so difficult. Is there just some easier way to solve it where I could just move somewhere else? As a wise man once said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different outcome. To give you an idea of the scale of waste the colonization of Mars would be, again, referring to that previous calculation made by Elon Musk, bringing just 6 people to Mars would cost the same annual US budget on Social Security. Bringing just 12 people would cost the same as how much the US spends annually on Veterans Affairs. Clearly, if valuable money is being wasted on this form of galactic manifest destiny, money that is desperately needed to help people who are too often ignored in our society, then this colonization just isn't worth doing. It is evident that there is absolutely no reason to believe that the colonization of Mars is in any way essential to mankind. I'll leave you from a statement recently made by Prince William relating to this topic. We need the world's greatest brains and minds fixed on trying to repair this planet, not trying to find the next place to go. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. My name is Marina Guzman. Ready. Thank you for your introductions. Now we're moving on to responding. There have been several points addressed in the opposing team's introduction, and the crucial one, the main one that we would like to focus on, is the fact, the analogy of the room. The room that is so messy that the owner of this room decides to leave and get a new one. So we're leaving a perfectly functional room just because it's messy. Well, we believe that this analogy is flawed and inaccurate. We don't know how messy the room is and how hard it is for the person to stay in this room. How about if the room is on fire and if the person cannot survive inside this room anymore? And how about if the person wants to get a second room, just in case? They still stay in their old one and try to clean up the mess, while having a backup plan that might be able to save their life in the future. That is what we're talking about. We are talking about colonizing the planet, not moving away entirely.
Absolutely. Is this backup plan really worth the billions of dollars we're going to spend when we don't even know whether life exists on Mars?
We believe so. Yes, we do. We believe that we should start investing into this technology right now, because with time it will become cheaper and more available to more people. We do need a backup plan. We do not know which threats we might stumble across in the future. Right now, we are facing climate change. There has been talk about climate change since the 1960s, and yet the temperatures keep rising. There are, of course, endless environmental projects, and some of them have been able to achieve their goals. But the issue with all of those projects is that every single one of them focuses on their own solution. They may show creativity and passion of people towards trying to solve the problems here on Earth, but there is no one unique solution that everybody is agreed on. There is no consensus in what exactly we need to do. And that is the issue. That is why we need a backup plan. As said previously, of course, the expenses for traveling to Mars, for colonizing Mars, will be high. But we do believe that in the future, with development, those technologies will become more available. And having this backup plan is absolutely necessary. Now, we do believe that the Earth has a lot of issues here and now that we do have to address. We do not believe that tomorrow everybody packs their things and leaves. Of course, we are going to be focusing on issues here and now. Of course, absolutely, invest into trying to clean the air, invest into eco-friendly alternatives or everyday things. But can we truly believe that those investments will solve everything? Because by 2050, the population of Earth is estimated to be around 10 billion. 10 billion of people who need to be fed, who need access to the basic resources as well as certain luxuries provided by the industries. And the industries are believed to be the main issue. If one person decided to give up and get rid of all of the greenhouse gas emissions in their life, reduce them by 100%, that is the equivalent of 1 second of what the industries emit into our atmosphere. Just 1 second. That is why we believe that, absolutely.
Like you said, it will take time to colonize Mars. It's not something that will happen within a week's time or a month's time. It takes time. It's the same on Earth. It will take time to solve environmental problems, and many countries have already started. Bhutan, for example, has already switched their energy into renewable energy. Now they're using more renewable energy, and so is Nepal. So is Solomon Islands. So like these small countries have started.
Thank you for your point of information. And yes, there are certain countries that are trying to implement certain policies to reduce their environmental impact. But do not forget, the graphs that we've seen only predict that the temperatures will keep rising. We do not have a reason to believe that within a year's time, or even a decade, 2 decades, even 100 years, we will be able to solve the issues completely. And we cannot believe that this is going to be our future. We have to have a backup plan. Because, as I said previously, the industries and politicians are the main issue. As the introduction has mentioned, politicians are corrupt. But do we have a reason to believe that this is going to change? Because politicians are pretty much our only hope. Personal responsibility isn't. But how are we going to trust companies and politicians to solve those issues if they are corrupt right now? Do you think that this is going to change in the future? Of course, we should be optimistic. Of course, we should keep investing. We should keep researching. Thank you.
Good morning, esteemed judges. I'm Balakmi Chandani, and I'll be talking about the social and economic problems we will face if we do colonize Mars. There is no doubt that a project as big as the colonization of Mars requires huge amounts of money. an estimate of several tens of billions of dollars. And figuring out a way to pay for the project is not so easy. Instead of spending so much money on Mars, don't you think it's wise to rather invest in saving our own planet? An entire pandemic showed our planet, by shaking its roots, how miserably unprepared we are to tackle diseases. Nations driven apart by mutual interest and strife, not willing to unite in cohesion, even in the face of problems. The decision to set up space colonies at such a juncture of time, it seems naive. Rather, we should help developing nations helplessly slipping into poverty and starvation, crippled with the inability to provide with an exponentially growing population. Knowing that we are already facing these problems, it seems unethical to invest in another planet where we don't know whether life exists. You tell me, whether Rotary is accepted?
We are not seeking to look for life on Mars. We're seeking to establish it. Wouldn't you agree that establishing life on Mars would actually relieve the planet from its overpopulation that we are going to reach soon enough, and eventually make it easier for low-income countries to actually invest in just focusing on their population, while higher-income countries will be able to establish a colony on Mars?
I think it's not necessary to invest so many billions of dollars on Mars. We should be investing this money on people that are facing starvation, people in developing countries. Mumbai, for example, there's various slums, squatter settlements in Mumbai, in China. These people are not being focused on. If the colonization of Mars happens, there's no way they will survive. They will be always surviving only in the informal sector. They will not be working to their best capability. With the colonization of Mars, this billions of dollars will be spent on Mars. Instead, these billions of dollars should be spent on people that have to actually survive. They have to survive on Earth. You tell me, is it more necessary to ensure that future generations will be able to live a healthy life on Earth, or to test whether or not we will be able to survive on Mars? It isn't logical to spend so much money on a project based on the theory that there's a possibility that life exists on Mars, or that Mars is far too interesting to let go of. Even if enough money is raised to go to Mars, we don't have the technological capability of going there and making sure that everyone lands safely. Scientists have also suggested that even if this mission does become a success, the people living there won't have a good quality of life. They won't be able to live a life full of joy. Here on Earth, we are free to go outside wherever we want. That will definitely not be the case on Mars, since it's simply too cold there. Temperatures can go down to minus 25 degrees, or even worse near the poles. Not to mention, the atmosphere at Mars is very thin.
There are currently people right now, scientists, who are established in the South Pole, for example. Conditions there are nowhere near as welcoming as in the rest of the Earth. However, we still need those spaces for scientific research. Isn't the situation the same in Mars? The conditions may be harsh, but we still need people. Would you agree?
On Earth, it's survivable. On Mars, you can't survive. The temperatures are so cold that you will not be able to stay out. Plus, there's so many dust storms that they can last for several of months. People won't be able to step out of their house, even if they do go there. They won't be able to step out of their house because of how intense these dust storms are. As well as these problems, there's also the danger of significant insecurity of food and water supply. Lack of water supply also means that people will not be able to grow sufficient amounts of crops. Also, most of the liquid water on Mars has either evaporated into space or is trapped beneath rocks, and we don't have the kind of technology to extract the water. Clearly, we do not have all the relevant resources with governments. The holding parties are big corporations like Blue Origin and SpaceX, run by billionaire giants who will cause a mad race for money and further their own goals before looking for the good of a planet. They will work with governments and suit their interests the best and will end up causing chaos while venturing to a land where there would be no laws. Overall, there are way too many problems associated with the colonization of Mars. The economy will be shattered. A mad, never-seen-before race for power will turn up. Instead, investing in a better future for everyone living on Earth sounds like a much better solution. All this money that can be used to...
Hello
Good morning, judges, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the opposing team. I will begin by responding to certain of the arguments addressed in the opposing team, and then follow on by developing more on why the colonization of Mars is essential for our development as a human species. Now, first in the introduction, James addressed the fact that we asked a question saying why that it would be more important to go to Mars because we need it. And he said that we don't actually need to move to Mars, we can very well just stay on Earth forever. That is completely untrue. One day the solar system will disappear. And moving to Mars, colonizing Mars, means that it will give us an advantage in the way our technology begins to develop. It will give us an advantage to make these technologies more efficient, more affordable, and one day become maybe an intergalactic species, which is something we are already trying to achieve through not only the colonization of Mars, but projects such as the Kepler mission created by NASA. Now, another argument the opposing team has provided is that it is much more essential to focus on saving planet Earth. We completely agree with this argument. We have never said that we want to move to Mars forever, that we want to leave planet Earth, abandon our entire human evolution, and just move to Mars. That is not something we want to happen, but it is a possibility we must keep in mind. It is important to have Mars as a backup planet if Earth does really one day degenerate to the point where we can no longer live on it. This is not the main focus of colonizing Mars. Its main focus is development of humankind. Now, moving on to our arguments. Yes. The question addressed today is why is the colonization of Mars essential to humankind and to the future of humankind? To answer this question, I will first explain why it is essential for humans to develop as a species. Now, this may seem like a hard question to answer, but it really has a simple and straightforward answer. That is, humans as a race have developed and evolved to become the dominant species on our planet, making technology and advancements giving us a very long lifespan, for example, or curing illnesses. This shows, yes?
You mentioned that if you colonize Mars, it's not going to be permanent. It's not going to be permanent.
Yes.
So how will you go back to Earth or wherever else you want to go when you don't have enough fuel, you don't have enough resources, you don't even have water?
Actually, they can, well, this is a little bit more scientific, but we can create fuel from the soil on Mars by fusion reactions and things like that. A lot of chemical reactions we can create fuel from the soil on Mars. This is just theoretical, but if we don't establish a base on Mars, we will never learn how to create fuel from nothing. Meaning when we do eventually have to leave our solar system because the sun will, well, implode, it will expand and become a supernova, and we will have to leave very far away, we won't be able to establish a colony on any other planet. Whereas if we already go to Mars, which, yes, it may be expensive now, but if we start moving there, the technologies will slowly become more efficient, more affordable, meaning that eventually it will be much easier when we do have to leave. Thank you for your question. Now, moving on to, now that we have established that the development of humankind is essential, we will move on to explaining why colonizing Mars is essential for our development. As I have explained while answering this question, we need to be able to go to other planets because our solar system will one day die. And because we are talking about the future of humankind as a whole, we are also talking about future generations that won't have the Earth, that won't have Mars, that won't have any planet. And being able to go to Mars means that we will know how to establish future settlements in planets very far away. That may be more hospitable than Mars. Even in general, it's not an environment you want to live in. If we are able to do that, we can create a base anywhere on any planet. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ava Bland. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ava Bland, and I'll be addressing the issue of climate change related to the colonization of Mars. What makes you think that by colonizing Mars, humanity will change? change? Isn't it a better idea just to sort out the mess that we've already made here? The fact is, humans are selfish, which is why we put ourselves into this dilemma of climate change and global warming. Colonising Mars will not solve this and could possibly lead to humanity destroying yet another planet. If we start acting now, there will be absolutely no need for us to move to Mars, and we could save our solar system from losing 2 planets. If we manage to get ourselves into this mess, we can get ourselves out. The money that would be spent on colonising Mars could easily be spent on saving the planet that we already live in, by investing in solutions to climate change, which is one of the main reasons that mankind will be going to Mars in the first place. Every day, the sun rises, the wind blows, and the waves wash up on the beach. These natural processes should be used to power all activities that are currently powered by fossil fuels such as coal and oil.
Point of information.
Accepted?
But many lower income countries don't have the ability to use these renewable energies. They are focusing on fossil fuels because they are much more affordable. How would you answer to that?
It's really the responsibility of developed nations such as ourselves to help these low-income countries and be able to survive on the planet and to be able to use renewable energies. Thank you for your point of information. Money should be invested into renewable energies such as solar power. Now would be prime time to invest, as costs for solar panels have fallen by 99% since 1977. Solar panels can last a minimum of 40 years, making them so much more sustainable and reliable than any fossil fuel. If solar panels become the new source of energy, they will need to be produced and installed, which will create more jobs. Therefore, countries can use the installation of renewable energies to power their economies rather than relying on non-renewable energies. According to a report by BP, solar energy will be the main source of energy by 2040. This will massively reduce emissions and will make it more possible for us to cut our global emissions to 0 by 2050. This is what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change states that we need to do if we are to have a decent shot at keeping our global temperature under 1.5 degrees Celsius. We should invest in more renewable energy sources and more sustainable farming methods to ensure that we meet this target, to stop us from getting to the point where we have to move mankind to another planet. Animal agriculture accounts for roughly 14.5% of all greenhouse gas emissions produced. This is because of methane produced by millions of cows that are currently in intensive farming for meat production. It's also a result of how much land is cleared to produce food for the animals and to provide space for the animals themselves. It's estimated that between 1991 and 2005, 70% of deforestation in the Amazon basin could be attributed to the beef industry. A way to reduce these huge statistics would be by us all living on plant-based diets. There are so many benefits to our health as well, and our planet, of going vegan. It's calculated that roughly 1 in every 5 deaths worldwide could be saved if we simply ate more of a plant-based diet. Research has also shown that eating a diet high in animal protein increases the risk of cancer by 400%. It can also massively increase chances of having heart problems. If the world went vegan, food-related emissions would drop by 70% by 2050. Combined with the fact that by 2040 the world's main energy source will be solar power, we can make it possible to keep our global temperature rise to under 1.5 degrees Celsius. It's definitely not essential to colonize Mars, as it is entirely possible for mankind to work together, led by environmentally minded world leaders with robust legislation to keep our global temperature rise under 1.5 degrees Celsius. Thank you.
Okay, we now have 2 minutes to
Good evening. Thank you again for listening to what we have to say, and I'll be addressing some of the points that the opposing team has made. First, the opposing team has stated time and time again that they do believe we should invest in addressing and solving the problems that we face here on Earth. But there's one problem with saying that, which is that money doesn't grow on trees. We can't seriously address the problems that we have here today if we're simultaneously spending, remember, again, $10 billion per person on colonizing Mars. That is massive amounts of money, and there are serious costs in addressing the problems we have here on Earth. So we can't realistically do those two things at the same time. Another point that the opposing team addressed is that colonizing Mars could address overpopulation. But when you think about that argument, really, Mars doesn't have grain or any sort of resource we could use. We're sending people up there, we're sending resources with them as well. So that it's not like that we're going to get new resources which could address this problem. We're still going to have to bring resources, it's just there won't be that many people on Earth. But that won't address the core problem. So again, there's no reason that, like another point, the solar system might collapse at some point, but Mars could be a stepping stone into developing into a later universe. But if we're going to talk about millions and billions of years into the future, eventually the whole universe will end at one point. We can't keep mankind surviving forever. So the idea that we should sacrifice a lot of people's lives today by not seriously addressing the problems we have in the modern age, and instead focusing on keeping mankind existing for billions and billions of years, it's not a sound argument. And we should focus on addressing the problems we have today, now, here on Earth, to increase the survival of mankind. Thank you.
I would first like to thank the opposing team for this wonderful debate. We have all learned a lot, and I appreciate you being here. Now, I will begin by decomposing a little bit the arguments of the opposing team and how we answer them. Both their arguments focused on social, economical issues and climate change. To the first, they can mostly go together. And we deconstructed these arguments by saying that we completely agree with the opposing team. It is essential today to focus on saving Earth first for the next 50, 100 years possibly. But the solar system is not going to disappear in the next 100 years. We have a lot of time until that happens, and in that time span, we must at some point establish a colony on Mars to be able to learn how to establish bases on other planets. The opposing team has also mentioned that it would be impossible to colonize other galaxies, and at some point the universe will perish. This is not necessarily true. The universe, we don't know actually when the universe will end. It is true that someday it will come to an end, but by that point, if we have managed to survive as a species, we could have established we could manage to create alternate universes, for example. That is a technology that may exist at some point. Now, why is it essential? Why do we believe as a team that it is essential to colonize Mars as a stepping stone to colonizing other galaxies and other planets? Well, as we have mentioned previously, colonizing Mars, colonizing these extremely hostile and completely uninhabitable planets, will teach us how to colonize later other planets. It will make technology more affordable. If we don't begin now, if we begin the minute that we learn the solar system is going to end, we will not have enough resources to invest in these technologies, and humanity will perish. The question addressed today is the future of humankind. It is not only our limited time span of 7 years.
Judges, please.
Okay. Okay. I'd move a little bit.
Thank you. Graham?
Well, teams, both of you, very well done. Victoria, you had the hard job of being the very first person to speak and I think that was a brave and very good effort in doing that. I think many of you did very well in being able to pick up some of the points of information, and it's really important to try to get the answer as clearly and quickly as you can and move on to the arguments that you've got ready to speak and do on. But overall, it's one of those debates. It's not like politics or talking about, I don't know, how Palmer is working or anything like that. It's almost an esoteric thing to discuss, and to find the right arguments on that, you obviously have to do a lot of research and a lot of sort of out-of-the-box thinking as to why things should happen and why they shouldn't happen. So well done all of you in thinking it all through.
Thank you very much. Anna.
Yeah, big thanks to both teams. It was really at the beginning rather scary to hear all the arguments. Obviously it's not a question of how to do things, we don't know what will happen, but it's a global universal thing, so big thanks on getting into the arguments. It wasn't easy because you can't really relate to it directly. So yeah, congratulations on both teams. All knows all the answers. It was very close.
Oh. Well, I'm going to go up there, guys, if you don't mind. Goodness gracious me, you did incredibly well, all six of you. Really impressed. Sorry that we had the sun on you. I hope that didn't affect. You'll notice I'm walking around. Okay? Debates. You can use the energy in the room. Okay? You really can. You can really stretch it. You can open it. What I did, if you won't mind me doing so, is I pulled out a few areas where I might suggest some improvements or recommendations, and then some wonderful areas from all of you. Okay? So one thing I did notice, and probably we did in the room, was a little bit of this. What am I doing? Reading. Don't like reading. What happens when you read? You lose the engagement with these wonderful people in front of you. Yes? Keep that eye contact up, glance down. Keep that eye contact up. Look at the tops of their heads if you're not sure about looking at people in the eyes. But just try and keep out too much reading. Okay? Because you just lose that little bit of energy. Okay? One of the things we saw regarding the points of interest, slightly long in some places, and really on the point, really nice and melody. Okay? One of the wonderful things, both of you did it really, really well, was keeping the team flow. Okay? You set out an argument, that was backed up, backed up, backed up. On this side, Victoria loved the props. Well done, you. I love a good prop. I love a good picture. Take us out of looking at somebody presenting and something else for us to engage with. Brilliantly done. Great opening. Built on and built on. So that team flow, guys, keep that. That's really, really good. BIC, I must say that I've seen some of the videos because I'm a geek like that. I like to watch some of the teams. Your team has really improved. I really like that model. I've not seen you guys before. I thought you operated like an excellent team. Really good. You've been doing this for a while, clearly. Use of facts. No, they're shaking their heads. No. Use of facts. Very good use of facts. Very good counter-arguments. Okay, so when somebody's put something forward, make sure that you agree with the parts you want to agree with, and then build a counter-argument if that's what you're going to do. Both teams did that really well. I really like that. Okay, so, clear over length, no. One thing I would say regarding one thing to watch is change of tone in voice. Yes, the voice is a wonderful thing. Think about changing your tone to make impact, and also using pause. Okay? So there is 10 million, we're going to think about this, the cost is very high, we're going to... Don't get into those rhythms. Okay? In both teams there were periods where, because of the reading, you were talking through the points. Take your time. We're not in a rush, we want to hear what you've got to say. Yes? Take your time, change the modulation of your voices, change to the pause, okay? So, you're going to say, what scores are now? They were really close. You really did brilliantly, both of you. Both teams, tremendous. And as I said, you guys I've seen the improvement from watching some of the videos and watching some of the stuff. So, brilliant. Now, we had a terrible job in there. We've been in there for about an hour. So, in terms of best debater first. So best debater first, which was very challenging. Now, one of the things that we consider, of course, is where people are in the order. Okay? So when you're the opener, you've got a massive job to do because you're building a structure. When you're the third person, you need to carry home that argument. So there may have been counter-arguments, you've got to weave those in, you've got to do all sorts of things. Okay? When you're the middle person, looking at the two middle people, you've kind of got to build on that, but set a platform for the third person. So each one has a distinct role. Okay? So that was one of our challenges in our debating room around that particular thing. Now, we thought that the best debater today was Victoria. Saskia to come up.
Saskia, please.
So you need to come up and we do this way around. Do you want to come in here? So is that good regarding the banners? You need to hold this. This is yours. You need to hold the other side of it. You need to hold the other side of it. There we go. There we go. Good. Well done. A brilliant opening and setting up of the Agora team. So, I think I've said it through the summing up so far. Very difficult in terms of the flow. What I really liked on this side was you had an argument and then you used the elements of the argument as you went through. So, you know, let's save our own planet. What's the cost of changing things? We can use that cost in an alternative way. Really nicely done. This side, beautiful set of stats, beautiful opening and structuring, and then a nice flow through the two of you with some really concrete closing it down. Told you it was difficult. Told you it was difficult. So, by a very, very narrow margin, the winning team is Agora. We come here. Team, you might want to go one either side of me. Eva needs to come up as well. Guys, you need to hold this because this is not mine. This is yours. I'm handing over. Yes? Whoever's involved needs to hold. So there we are. There we go. So stretching. Good stuff. Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you. I would also wish to congratulate to our team, if you don't mind, to the opposing team, because it was a very interesting debate. So, thank you for it.
Thank you so much. Before you sit down, I know that Harry won't ask for it, but could we please have a photograph with the two teams together? One was for the judges, finally. Julie, I know you don't want anyone to come up. And where's Saskia and John? Come on. Good photograph, thank you very much.
Saskia, please.
Thank you. Tall one.
Just behind us.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get us all in, but you can have a try. Up a bit. Cozy up a bit. Thank you, everybody.
And for your gate.